Welcome, everybody, to the ninth recording session of the Barrel Wars podcast, guys.
Quick correction, this is actually podcast number 10.
Today, I'm really excited to have Joe Valla here, along with Rain Dancer, our cohort in all of this, and of course, Buzzbuzzinton is here as well.
Oh,
and guys,
Buzz. Not Buzz.
Buzz over here, yeah, right there. We're excited to have Joe Valla here today, guys. Joe is a core member of our community, an amazing drifter DIY advocate out there, and he helps all of us. He helps all of us with the little things that need to be helped with. But we're really looking forward to having a conversation with Joe today. Joe, welcome.
Greetings, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you for having me.
Joe, so there's not much to talk about with your Twitch name. It's Joe Valla.
Yeah.
So I would love to ask how you came up with that, but that's really, I guess.
My other option was taken, and it was Wolve. Wolf, actually.
Everybody has Wolf. Everybody out there has the name Wolf.
We call him Bro Valla, though, or Joe Bro.
Yeah. Joe Bro, indeed. So maybe you could give us a little bit of background, Joe, on how you came to the Barrel Rollers.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I was watching Nate, and I found Rain.
I found you first.
Yeah, you did. But you was the reason for me finally going to try rally again. And I don't know rally. I didn't like rally because I had to listen to a guy to know where I was going, and I was a bad listener.
Wants to listen to a guy.
Wasn't there a practical application to going to dirt rally from your perspective?
Drifting
Practical
is
yes.
basically rally is drifting with a purpose.
There you go. This is
Because
the coin that was phrased by Joe.
The practical application of drifting.
Exactly.
Yeah, because when you go sideways, you have to keep throttle control, weight transfer, and input control. You also have to be smooth. And if you don't do that in rally, you find trees or logs or rocks.
It's that what we call transferable skills, right? There's stuff you learn in one discipline. You can make use of in another, and it can even provide an advantage to you, as we've seen with Joe's results often enough on tarmac, in particular.
I wonder is that transferable to a guy like me who does rally but's never drifted before? So having rally experience will help me in drifting.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, that's how I got into rallying. I got into drifting the other way around. So when I used to watch rallying, they were calling it power sliding, and then I found drifting, and I was like, drifting's like power sliding. I know how to do that, and that's how I got into drifting. Yeah.
There you
go.
So the way I feel very fortunate about how I ended up connecting with Joe, but because of when I look at the circles that we're in, Joe, I think it's inevitable, like we would have crossed paths. But how it happened in the first place was I was actually streaming Assetto Corsa. It was in my very, very early days of streaming. And I think it was an Assetto Corsa race, of all things. Yeah. Not a drift session or anything like that. And one of the people who was watching, when I went to raid, I had no one to raid, and so I asked chat, is there anyone to raid? And everybody was looking, and one person jumped up and said, I got someone, raid Joe Valla. And I'm like, look him up. he's drifting in LFS. I'm like, hell yeah. Dropped in, said hello, and the rest was history. Got on really well with Joe, like, immediately. Instant friends. And what was that guy's name again? Damn. Someone I haven't seen in a while, and the name is just on the tip of my tongue. Can't remember his name at the moment.
I have a horrible memory.
Yeah, he hosted servers and the like all the time, and I think he got really into 5M or something. I'll remember it at some point. Maybe yeah, I'll remember at some point. But anyway, but so it turned out, Joe already knew Nate at that point, and so I think it would have just happened naturally.
And I followed you back, and after a while I crossed path with your stream, and you were on AC, and we ended up talking cars.
Yeah.
Old Nissans and things.
That's right.
And
that's
after,
right.
That's right. And after that, I was like, I'm hanging out whenever I can.
we have great chats, Joe. We really do.
Yeah.
We really do. Mainly cars, but
Yep.
Topics can wander from there, but cars. I mean, we love cars, don't we?
My first experience with Joe Valla on stream was, well, to say the least, exciting. Joe, with his goofy antics and the crazy footwork, the precise footwork, and managing to pilot that vehicle down the stages with all that's going on with his stream, I was fascinated and hooked right out of the gate. Followed him immediately. And of course, he's responsible for nerfing me. Thank you very much, Joe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I had to slow you down somehow, so...
Dirty rotten.
You can see a little bit of Joe's handiwork in the background there, in the 3D printed. There's the shifter with the big knob. Damn, that's a big knob.
It's a skull.
So that's the I'm going to say this. I'm actually going to say this. The white stuff that you see in Joe's frame is the 3D printed
I made
stuff. Yeah, that all came from Joe. All that white stuff.
Yeah, and there's a few of us that have benefited from Joe's handiwork.
That's right.
Certainly across the world.
There's a couple of prototypes that have that are out in the wild and on some of Joe's hardware. Couple of those sequential shifters, and some other little bits and bobs there, right? Like adapters and stuff, Joe? Is that right? Yeah.
I have sent out a couple on wall mounts.
A mount, yeah.
4 wheels.
Yeah. So that's quite remarkable. And I think more and more people are getting 3D printers as well, and it's a bit of a trend. I'm curious to get one myself at some point.
As I am. Seeing
Agassi has
what's
one
possible.
now, and the first thing that he made was an adapter.
Yeah. Masup's got the 3D printer as well.
Yeah.
I think one or two other people. Can't remember who though. But Joe, you've got a really rich history. But I think I'd love. No, you really do. I think I'd love to explore. Let's start off because we're sort of touching on it a little bit, and I think your history naturally intertwines between like real life and sim and Twitch. Normally, I think we ask about Twitch by itself. And then we ask about sim racing or sim driving by itself, and we ask about real life by itself. But yours is it naturally intertwines between it all. So how about let's go back. And
How far?
all the way to the beginning.
Yeah, let's talk about how did you get into cars in the first place and driving and the like? Like, where did that start for you?
In Norway, you kind of have to have a car if you ain't in a city. So the interest was there, but I could only afford cheap front-wheel drives because they're easy to find.
Here we go.
I didn't say anything more. And
Go on.
I was always into PCs, but like back then, probably early 2000s or something, it wasn't anything to game on.
You're right.
Like game. Right. And a friend of mine, he had PlayStation 1 and Gran Turismo 1 or 2 or like early one.
It would have been 1 or 2 on PlayStation 1.
Yeah, so I played that, and the owner saw me play, and he asked like, "Why are you in the front wheel drives?" And I was like, "Because I only loop it with the other ones." And he was like, "Yeah, I know why. Because you are using the buttons, you ain't using the sticks, so you have no control of the throttle." And I was like, "Ah." And after that, I was able to control the sideways, and after that I was hooked. In any game, like if I couldn't go sideways, I was like, nah, fuck it. So, and after some years, I was able to have a PC where I could actually play games. So it was on controller. I think the first one was Toka Racer.
Oh yeah, Codemasters, right?
Where we went.
Toka was Codemasters, right?
Yeah, I don't remember. Probably.
I think it was.
It's old, like hell old.
Yeah, really old.
And it was the first game we found where we could play online with friends, and also TeamSpeak back then. And I think we went from that to Mercedes-Benz World Racing.
That one I don't know.
No, it's also old. And it was also on controller. On my YouTube, it's a couple of videos that got transferred from Google Video, which was a thing way back.
Yeah.
But when that died, it got transferred to my YouTube. So the dates are wrong. It's
it's older.
They have the yeah, it's way older.
But like the dates on YouTube are the dates that it transferred, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm curious. I've got to go dig those up and take a look.
So on that game, it was Mercedes, but we could add cars like mods, like AC. So we had some Chargers and some other fun cars and Holdens. And they were nice to go sideways with. So we were playing that for a good while, and then Mercedes-Benz World Racing 2, which wasn't that big of a hit. And I got introduced to LFS by Noxon.
That's Live for Speed.
Yeah.
For Speed, for anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah, so the first thing I did there was I kind of tried to tune the car to handle like the car in Mercedes-Benz World Racing, and it worked. And after that, I was hooked.
Nice.
And after...
So you were Mercedes World Racing, you were already sliding around at that point. Yeah.
And the interesting reasoning for that to take place is... In the beginning, we were just racing while sliding.
Yep.
But after a while, we got bored. So we found an area with the containers at the docks, and we played tag.
In Mercedes World Racing?
Yeah.
Right,
it's an open world.
Right.
Even in the races. So we just fired up a race, and we ignored the laps, and we went to the docks And we had an area like do not go outside here, and we played tag. And with all of the containers, we had to sideways to go around the corner fast, so the guy behind couldn't hit you. Because if you can go sideways around a corner with throttle, you'll have the power out of the corner. If you slow down and accelerate, you'll be hit by the guy who's actually sliding.
Tag drift style. I love it.
And that was hell fun.
This is explaining quite a lot for me, Joe. It is explaining, why LFS was the real, super compatible to what you were doing beforehand.
Yeah.
It does explain a lot, and why I guess you struggled to find anything to match what you had before. I really get it now.
And then in LFS, when I got my first wheel, I actually traded that for a. But that's a different story.
Hang on. Pause. Wait a minute. What wheel? What car? We can come back to the car later. But what wheel? What car? Really quick.
I do believe it was an Opel Kadett, and I got a PC and a G25 with a rig.
So hang on. Which way did the trade go? You traded the car for the
Interesting.
for a PC and wheel.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I went offline for a couple of weeks while learning the wheel, because it was not like a controller.
Really? It really isn't, right?
Yeah. So, and also in the beginning I was on 270, because it's the default in the G25 software.
Right.
So after, I think I caught that after half a year, maybe a year, and I was like, fuck, I have to relearn to drive again.
Yeah. Right. Quick pause. Where did the Sylvia come into the picture? Where did the real life stuff start?
Back in, I think it was around 2010, I started my drifting team in 2006. So we had a bunch of other guys, and we did competitions, hosted
In
competitions,
LFS, right?
joint competitions. Yeah.
In LFS. So the sim drifting started first.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of the members had a S13 180SX that he used on track. And a couple of us met up on Rudskogen, which is track in Norway, during Gatebil, which is one of Europe's biggest events for cars, overbuilt cars, drifting, racing, anything. And I had a sit-in with him in his S13, and I have to admit, the first time you're in a car and you haven't been in the car with the driver before, and you go on a track and you go 100 miles an hour into a corner, and he's like, should you slow down? No, and he yanks the e-brake, and whoop. The first couple of seconds I was like, yeah, okay, is this gonna go well? And he held it, and the other way, and I was like, okay, he knows, he knows what he's doing, so that's. And after that I was like, I'm gonna have one of these cars someday. Now I have one. And when I got the car, the second day had I had it home, I went to wash it, but a friend of mine did his first, and there's a parking lot behind the gas station, and I was like, let's see if this works. So I had it in first and just floored it. Second, clutch kicked it sideways, in with the clutch, and the car go the other way, release. Oh, it's a sidewalk, fuck that. It handled exactly like it should, luckily. Because if it hadn't, I would have hit the curb hard.
Oh,
But it was hella fun though.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Awesome, dude. I had some very painful lessons because I didn't have a simulator at first. It's very, very painful lessons, but it's funny what you're saying about, you know, getting onto a track for the first time with someone and you haven't experienced, you know, what it's actually like in real life. You know, when I got out on track for the first time this is in the R33 as a passenger with a very, very, very skilled driver next to me. I was expecting him to, you know, like I'd seen him taking other cars out and other people out on the track in their cars to give instruction laps. And I'd seen drifting videos. I knew what drifting was all about, right? And I was expecting it, but my God, that first corner, when that he got sideways, I was not expected to be pressed up against the glass so intensely, you know, and that when going the other way, I'd have to grab onto something not to fall into him. And I mean, the R33 didn't have the best bolstered seats you could imagine, but they weren't bad. But still, even with some bolstering, you know, I was rolling around and I was getting pressed up against the glass because of the violence of the forces. So that's something that absolutely, you know, is not translated into the sim. The real life G forces are so intense. You're not expecting it the first time. It took me like half a lap to be able to comprehend what was going on. Yeah.
Drift cars have a lot of grip because they have to maintain traction while wheel spin.
Yeah.
I was in a Supra on the same track. It was way more powerful than S13, but it's a couple of years later, and it's Ringnes is the guy's name who
Dingus
drove, and he's an awesome driver.
Is he on Twitch?
No, but I think he's on YouTube.
All right, the name's familiar for some reason.
Yeah, and he had 1 lap. No, 2 laps sideways, which was hella fun, obviously. But it was a really, really hot day, and a high-strung 2JC needs to cool down. So he had a cool-down lap, and I almost crapped myself because the amount of G forces in the corners when you don't drift, like gong, 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 like what the hell? It kind of blew my mind because I thought like, yeah, it's probably loose, but no, that's just power. That's why it's loose.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, I think people watch like Formula Drift and it doesn't translate well, as you guys say. Like you got these massive plumes of smoke. These cars are just sliding like they're on ice. But what really is going on is so different. These cars are running 1,000 horsepower with nitrous. You know, that's what's keeping those wheels spinning. But the wheels are just as grippy as a race car, like a GT3 car or something like that. They need all that grip to keep the car balanced and where it needs to be. But they need, like Joe says, it needs to overpower that grip and get them sliding. And in the games, it takes so much more to get it to go. And these games, you just go, that's it, and it just goes, what? And we're there. It's like
you don't get
that's
the
not how it
tactile
works.
feeling, right? You don't get the feeling
that's it.
Of the G-force.
The only time it works like that is I found here in Canada when it's icy, you literally just give it a touch and you are round, and then you can hold it and you can play with it. But yeah, apart from that, that's not how it works.
Yeah, in the winter and the ice and it's easy and slow motion.
Yeah.
And fun.
I drift more in the snow because I'm a poor man drifter and it's a lot cheaper on my tires.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wait for the snow and do it. I basically see that as free drifting. I don't have to worry about my tires running out or anything like that. So.
Yeah, I like slow drifting as well.
And also regarding what Buzz said about the power in FT, you can easily see that if they have an issue with the engine, axle, and the power is gone. It's like they catch up on the traction immediately and understeers. Like
when they grip
immediately.
It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing when they grab grip.
Violent act,
Yeah, you want it to be very deliberate. You want to say, okay, I want grip now. You want to be in control of that.
Yeah.
And also, if you see any videos on YouTube regarding drift crashes, 90% of the time it's understeer, because they either go off the throttle or they overcorrect, and it's no returning from that. It's just wall.
Yep, out you go.
Instantly.
Out you go.
So
outside.
I'd rather loop it because it's way safer.
This is fascinating. I have yet to experience drifting. You guys are giving me the incentive to do so.
Fun. For me, I just like it's the smile factor. I don't know what it is, but there's something infectious because driving in a straight line is great fun. Going fast is great. You're doing this is great. But for some reason, as soon as you do this, it's like I don't know what it is, but it's just when you're looking out the side window, I don't know why, but it's more fun than the front. And I don't know what's going on with my room. Stop.
It's it's wanted to be part of it, Buzz. But you're right, and so what I was talking about, the transferable skills and why it is so good to learn this, right? When you learn how to drift, you learn how to initiate, how to get the rear rotating, how to hold it, and how to get out of it. Now, when you happen by chance upon oversteer when you weren't intending to come into oversteer, it's really good to just instantly have some muscle memory and go, oh, this is happening. This is what I need to do. And it just kicks in. I've had a real life experience where I was merging onto a motorway. And I was accelerating up to 120 kilometers an hour because that was the speed of a traffic flow. And as I was going, it was an uphill on-ramp, right? As I was just coming up to merge, and I looked over my shoulder just to check for a break in the traffic, and the instant I looked over, I crossed, and I didn't notice this because it was right on the crest, because it was uphill, right on the crest, right on the crown of a road. There was water flowing across the road, and so I hit this water. So as I was turning my head, I hit the water, and I tell you, right, I was turning my head, but as I was turning my head, it was like my viewpoint stayed the same as I turned my head, because the car was rotating like that as I turned, and I'm like, what's going on here? I'm turning my head, but I'm still looking forward. Oh, I am sliding. Okay, we're good. And I had 3 passengers who started screaming, but we just merged normally, and you know, I can imagine if the muscle memory didn't kick in at that point, it just would have looped around, and I would have gone, instead of up onto the motorway, I would have, you know, gone off the road and, you know, down the embankment, and it would have been a terrible time. Because, you know, how do you catch a spin if you've never experienced one before?
Yeah. A lot of people don't realise that once the car starts sliding, they normally turn into they turn the wrong way. If you want to turn into the slide, and that's what not a lot of people realise. And I even said it to my wife. I said, when you can show me a lap on the simulator, then I'll let you drive in the winter here. Until then, I'll drive you to work. It's okay.
Vendors getting onto the wrong pedal or throwing the weight the wrong way. You know, like there are times when you over rotate like that, often you actually want to get onto the throttle. You know, or if it's wheel spin, and another one that you see when it's amateur hour. And I swear to God, this is the #1 cause of muscle cars and the like stuffing up, is that they break traction. They break traction, and what you need to do, you actually need to regain a little bit of a grip on back, a little bit, but so you need to back off a little bit, but not all the way. You need to back off a little bit, so it's just not stupidly spinning, because if it's stupidly spinning, it's just going to keep on rotating the whole way around. You need to stop that rotation, but you need to keep the weight back there, because you need to re-grip. So you back off a little bit, and once you feel that it's not rotating anymore, you got to hold it. You got to hold it right there, and that's another bit of muscle memory. So what I see a lot is either back off completely, and then you get these. Yeah, you get a tank slapper.
They start off and they're on, and they're off and they're on. Yeah.
Yeah, you get this. Or you get bang, you know, keep the foot buried, and he just keeps on looping the whole way around. Right? They're all of these sorts of little nuances that you just get right, and they're sort of counterintuitive. You know, it's not your immediate reaction.
In a front wheel drive, you actually have to punch it. Yeah. Because they can also go sideways.
Any driven wheels, any engine placement, because what happens is it's just the weight transfer. If the weight has transferred the wrong way, then it's going to be bad news for you.
Lift off oversteer I had a lot in the front wheel drives, like going into a corner off the throttle and punch it, back straight, brake. Have the car straight whenever you slow down, always.
Lift off oversteer, and combine it with braking as well is a massive cause of people, you know, looping a front wheel drive. Massive cause, and it catches them out unaware. And again, it's a counterintuitive reaction. Is stamp on the throttle to push your weight to the rear, so the rear's grip. So actually,
also
go Joe. Sorry.
Also, in general, try to avoid sudden movements on the wheel, on the throttle, on the brake, like smooth.
Be like Fusion John.
Settles ways. Yeah, Dr. Smooth.
I think for some people it's a bit of fear when you first get into a car. I guess sim's a bit different. It's more when you're in a real world car, I guess. But when you first feel that initial go and you feel the wheels lose traction and it starts to go, I feel that people are a bit scared of it and they go, "Whoa, that's a lot," and they back off. Like you say, Rain, that's when they back off, and then it regrips, and then they're back on it again, and then they're back off, and it's on and off. I think you need to apply yourself and think, we're going to do this. If we spin round, we'll learn from it and go from there. But you need to keep the power on. You need to. It's always more, like Chris says, drive faster. It's more power.
But
always.
Good lord, the smile factor. Once you get used to it, once you get into it, once you know what you're doing. To me, I sort of liken it. Even though this is something I don't do, but I sort of liken it to surfing in a way, right? Once you catch it, right? It's the same. It's the same with drift. Once you've caught that drift, and then you're riding it, and then you choose on your own terms what you do with it. Are you going to rotate a little bit more, a little bit less? You're going to hold it. You're going to hold it. You're going to go back the other way. Are you going to choose to go out of it now? You're just riding this thing. You know, you're going, a bit this way, a bit that way, and come a bit more, and that's enough. And that's the addictive thing. Is every time you know, going into it, things could go wrong. Holding it, things could go wrong. Things should be going wrong, but like, I still got this. I still got this. I still got it. I'm still going.
I imagine that feeling is amplified when you're doing duos, right? When you're doing this right beside another guy. That fascinates me when I see you guys out there virtually drifting, and you are literally side by side and transferring the weight at the same time, moving to the next corner. It just looks to me like you're going to crash, but you're right off each of the door handles. That is amazing to see.
But also, when you're chasing, you have to. It's harder than lead.
Yeah.
Go Buzz.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. You have to, with the chasing, you have to lift off a bit earlier to allow the car in front to move as well. But you need that trust. When you do a tandem with somebody, you need to build up the laps and build up the time with them to understand how they drift as well. Especially if you are chasing, you need that trust in that other driver. Like any racing, you know, like track racing. Anything when you're sharing that same space on track, you have to have the trust in the other driver. But yeah, duos, and when you start getting into trains, it does become really fun. Yeah, looking
it's
one
fascinating
way,
to watch.
You got a car that close. Look that way, you got a car that close, and you're in the middle. Like, oh my god! Any like Rain says, like any minute this could go horribly wrong, but we're not, and we're out, and we survived it, and that was fucking amazing. How cool was that? Yeah, I don't know what it is, but that's the feeling you get. It's
rewarding, very rewarding.
Definitely.
You guys are going to get me hooked on this. I can tell that already.
In LFS, since I was doing that for so long, I actually enjoyed to chase randoms to see if I could just on the fly to their lines. And
just adapt to their style.
Yeah,
on the fly.
if it was mouse, wheel, controller, like I can left foot brake, I can handbrake, clutch kick, just to keep it going, and it's interesting. And another thing that is, I have to say, it confused me, and Rain was saying it for the longest time, and I got finally convinced by Kirk to try Horizon 4. And I was like, I had Horizon 3, and it was horrible on a wheel. But
atrocious.
Yeah, but if you have a good force feedback and a well-built car in Horizon 4, it actually handles really well. You can one hand while drinking monsters, if you can do that in AC or LFS. It's transferable. Like, I drove LFS and I tried AC, and in a good car I could do the things I could do in LFS, and it's the same thing in Horizon. So if you want to learn in Horizon or LFS or AC, if it is in good cars, it really doesn't matter if the settings are good, because if it feels like you're in a car and it handles like you're in a car,
precisely,
it is transferable.
Precisely. What the first thing I did as soon as I got a force feedback steering wheel, which was a Logitech G920, and it was during the time of Forza Motorsport 6. My PC was old and barely functional at the time, so I was just playing games on my Xbox One. But I remember so excitedly, setting it all up, jumping onto, I think I chose Nürburgring GP, because right at the start, You come out of a pits, there's a hairpin, and there's a bunch there's two sweepers to the left and then another hairpin to the right, and in my mind, you know, I'm gonna slide around these things. That didn't happen. It didn't work
Look
out.
on his face.
And the whole night, changing cars, changing settings, trying tracks. That night, you know, I just got this force feedback wheel home, and I wanted to do what I could do in real life, and it didn't happen. And then I was hitting the forums, and I was despairing. I lived on a second floor at the time, and where I sat in my rig, just in front and to the left, there was a window that opened really wide, and I kept on looking at my wheel and looking at the window. And I was like, I just rip this off my desk and just chuck it. I wouldn't even need to stand up. It took me a long time to be happy with my force feedback steering wheel. The first thing I had to accept was I'm not drifting in Forza Motorsport 6 on the wheel. Even though I could pick up my controller and like, wee, you know, I could do all of these, I had to accept that it wasn't going to happen with the wheel because, and this is the crucial thing, you know, when you get in a car, the manufacturer of that car has probably spent over its lifetime, you know, billions of dollars developing the way the wheel feels through the hydraulics, or these days it's electric motors, and through the suspension componentry and the springs and everything, right? That all translates, and the tires, that all translates to how the wheel feels. And this has been going on for decades now, maybe like over 100 years. And there are patents out, right? That these car companies submit to the patent office. But a patent means it's publicly viewable for anybody, including their rivals, to inspect. What the hell have they done here? How have they achieved this steering wheel feel? Oh, that's how they did it. And once those patents expire, they can then bring aboard that technology, right? But game developers, they don't pay, like there is no game developer out there who has patented, you know, the way their force feedback algorithms translate to the steering wheel. This is all closed code. This is all secret. So all the game developers develop their own methods of doing this, right? So they have the very, and it's got to interact with their own physics engine, which again is closed and secret and guarded, and nobody really knows what it's about. So you've got this combination, right? Whereas real life car manufacturers have the real world to deal with, right? You know, they don't have different instances of the world, different realities that they've got to translate into force feedback. So there are all of these things that combine to make, you know, and then there's the user setting it up. Like you don't get into a car, you know, and go, right, you know, how much tire do I want to feel? How much road effect do I want to feel?
Do I want to raise and lower the height of my vehicle? Here's a slider.
Yeah, do I need center spring on or not? You don't get into a car and do all of this, right? You know, how much friction should I do? You don't do all of this, right? At the best, you might have a sport mode, right?
Yep.
Or is this the right degrees of rotation? You know, you don't have any of this stuff. But you know, your average person who buys a force feedback wheel for the first time suddenly gets confronted with all of these things. It's tough. It is so tough. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. Getting to that point.
Wheelbases are different.
What was that, Joe?
Wheelbases are different. So if you have one wheel, the settings there, it probably won't directly transfer to another one.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So
indeed.
they have to be configured differently to handle similarly.
what a
So I
topic.
imagine you guys pick up on a change when you're moving from, say, a Thrustmaster to a Fanatec. I mean, a different physics, sort of a different way to set the wheel up. I've been in Thrustmaster literally all of my sim racing time, so I know nothing other than Thrustmaster.
Actually, same. I wore out 3 G25s to the point the gears was so worn it locked because there was no gears left. Because lock to lock is the hardest you can do on a wheelbase, regardless.
Yeah.
And Trustmaster T500 I have now has over 5 years of heavy wear. So the other option I have tried is a friend's T300, and they basically handle the same, like on how you drive and how you set it up. So when I upgrade, it will be have to start all over again, which is fine.
I can speak to Logitech, a G920 to a Fanatic Club Sport, and for me the difference was immediate in feel. As soon as I got onto the Club Sport, I'm like, this is what I was actually wanting when I got the Logitech.
My life?
Like the speed, the smoothness, the adjustability. This is what I felt like. I think that's what I was expecting when I got the G920. And so it was very, very natural. And of course, by then I'd learnt about how to set up force feedback. I had better game simulations to work with than I had initially when I started with a G920. So, night and day difference to me. Not that the Logitech is not capable. It's just that you need to adjust and work with it. Whereas I felt like the Fanatic was where I was expecting it could have been. And Buzz, sorry, go Joe.
I had the same with my T500. I actually hurt myself because on the G27, which I went from, I hopped in LFS and I had my force feedback and my settings, and I didn't change anything, and I was used to like chuck, e-brake,
yes,
let go, yes, catch. And you don't do that on a T500 on G27 settings because that wheel is way more powerful. The wheel spun way faster, and it didn't just stop when I grabbed it. So it slid, hit my thumb, and I was like, hey, fuck, I can't drive for a week now. Great.
Yikes. And
it was like a heavy hit. You heard the schmack.
and Buzz has taken the direct drive step, but he's gone from a Club Sport like I have to a Fanatic DD1. What can you say about that move, Buzz?
Yeah, so I would totally agree with you. I went the same sort of route with the Logitech to the Club Sport, and I would totally agree. Like, that is a night and day difference. Then taking the next step up, my Club Sport, I broke a few pins, and
it happens to Club Sports.
Yeah, it's the way you put the wheels on and off.
Yeah.
So I did damage some pins, and I thought rather than going back to another Club Sport, which was fantastic, I was like, well, the direct drive isn't that much more. Let's take the jump and go for it. And now that I'm in the Fanatec sort of universe, I can just plug everything in. It's just a box. Plugged it in, and I didn't get that initial night and day reaction like you do when you plug that Club Sport and you go from that Logitech, but you can definitely feel that it is the next step up. It is definitely tighter. And I say this on my streams as well. It sounds silly, but you can feel that direct driveness. In the Club Sport, you can still feel the mechanics inside. In this, it's smoother. You can really feel that there's nothing really holding you back, and it holds those peak torques and those peak forces a lot more. So when you're in the corner, you really can feel the G holding the wheel. Like if you're, say, flat out at the Nürburgring, for instance, along the back straight, you feel the car really load up when you get into those fast corners, and it definitely loads up better than the Club Sport. But it's a difficult one if I would go up to the direct drive from a Club Sport if there was nothing wrong with the Club Sport. It's I think the Club Sport is very, very good as a wheel, and like you say, it's what you expect when you get a wheel. This is what it should be. Like, you can feel everything through it. The forces are there, and it's a very, very good wheel.
Is clipping eliminated with the DDs, with the direct drives, or is clipping still a thing?
So I don't really know clipping. I guess clipping is when it sort of overdoes it.
Yeah, and the Thrustmasters tend to do that if you've got the forces too high,
right.
depending on how you've got them set. But you'll get sort of it's what you described as the clunky mechanical feeling you get.
Yeah.
Not quite as smooth.
It kind of depends on the wheel, because if the wheel has enough power, you don't want it to clip, because at that point the force feedback is so high that you can't do 5 stages without being completely worn out.
I'd say every single wheel has the potential to clip, even the ones with the most the high force feedback. Depending on your settings, you could make it clip. So it's really, think about it the same way as you think about audio, right? And the question, can it clip, is the same as, can you make those speakers distort?
Yep.
You know, and it's like if you turn all the sliders up, you know, volume all the way up, treble all the way up, bass all the way up, and put the right signal through it, then it's going to go instead of playing the music. And it's exactly the same with these wheels. So the better the treatment of the force feedback by the simulation, plus the more detail that the wheel is able to provide before clipping, then the less chance that you will clip. And that is why people go for these wheels with ridiculous amounts of torque.
For headroom.
Yeah, for headroom, so that they can pretty much eliminate any chance of clipping. So,
Yep.
so you can avoid clipping on a Logitech wheel completely. You can avoid it, but it just means that the forces will be because you turn everything down, the overall force will be lower. It's the same with audio. You know, if you've got that much force in the signal that's going out from the simulation engine, then if you're avoiding clipping by turning things down, everything's going to be quiet in an audio signal, and it's going to be in a wheel. It's going to be lighter. So
Good analogy.
that's what you're after.
I was going to say, for me, it has a lot to do with the game. So mine does occasionally clip, and what it does is it mainly does it in places like Australia in Dirt Rally, and it's when the car wants to compress and I'm trying to turn it into the corner and it goes into a divot, and then the game thinks, oh well, because we're in this divot and the wheel is at this point, then it should turn this way, which it shouldn't really, but it does, and then it goes clunk in the wheel.
Yep.
And then it's back to normal again. Like, it's just a click and then it's back to normal, and it's like, okay, fair enough. So that's the only point I get things like that. But apart from that, everything else, the forces feel right. So I think it's at those high points in some of the weird physics that these games throw out that it says, well, it should do this, and that's where I feel the clipping mainly comes from. Yeah, the spikes. Yeah.
Yep. Makes sense. Great.
And some simulators actually have a force feedback bar, so you can see how close you are. I think iRacing is one of them. You might have the same in AC. That is a question for Buzz, I guess. But you can see while you drive if it
clips or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got a positive and negative minimum, maximum, and then the sensor bit, and you see how much force it's getting. And if it's clipping, what you see is it goes right up, and then it just stays flat at the top, and it comes back down. So instead of having this sort of detail, when it hits the clipping limit, it's just flat. That's what essentially you see.
Too much
And
input.
I would really like to have one of those that you can have in any game.
Yeah.
So you could actually see it in whatever you drove. Is it clipping? So you can correctly adjust the force feedback for everything you play.
Yeah.
Because it's actually quite a few titles that has that. I think AC might have it.
AC would definitely have a third-party tool for that. It even has, I think it's even called FFB Clip, the third-party tool, and it has an auto adjust. Right?
Yeah, I have actually.
Yeah, you hit auto and you do a couple of laps, and it listens and it watches, and it determines how much it's clipping, and then after a couple of laps, it will automatically adjust the gain to avoid the clipping. But typically, like I was using that tool in AC, but then I found it was typically setting my gain. I think this might have been in Logitech days as well. It was typically setting my gain at around about I can't remember value, right? But it was always setting my gain at a specific value, and so I went, I don't need this. I'll just set my gain at that value, and that's done. And so I stopped using it and stopped getting clipping that way.
I think I did the same actually. But now I don't remember. Is it included in Content Manager?
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
Or do I have to find it?
I'm not sure about that.
Because I got
reckon
AC working again.
I saw.
So I'll probably join
Race Department FFB.
Buzz. The drift schools are on Saturdays, Buzz?
Yep.
Joe in Drift School.
Yeah, Joe in Drift School.
So,
I might have a car request.
Yeah.
Drift School is something that Buzz has been running since the dawn of time. In with barrel rollers, and it's a set of Corsa, and it's just a couple of hours where you can get on a track and learn to drift, or if you know how to do it already, you can get some practice in. You can help out some newbies.
Come have a play.
Yeah. So
do I need to make an appointment, Buzz?
No, just rock up.
You need you need a referral because Buzz is a specialist.
That's right.
Buzz takes walks.
Handle me specially.
He takes walk-ins,
certainly.
It's we do it every week, and we change it up. But it's just it's an open lobby which stays open all week as well. So if you want to have some private practice, you can jump in there and test out the cars and the track. Just on a set of courses, search for barrel rollers, and it will come up with the drift school. And as I say, that server's open all week long, and I'm in there on a Saturday for 2 hours if you need some like one-on-one. If you're like, oh, I've been trying this all week and I can't quite get this corner, can you have a look and help me out? Or if you're totally brand new, we've had people like that have come in, I can help out from totally new. And if you're, as you say, a seasoned veteran like Joe, we can just hang out and do some rando tandos, man. I'm always down for that. You know that? So yeah, it's a good laugh. We have some fun.
I finally found a S13 left-hand drive that handles well.
I saw you were driving left-hand drive. I actually saw it, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, this is a Japanese car.
Yeah, I have been looking for that so long because all of them have been right-hand drive. I'm like, we have these in Europe, you know. They are left-hand drive. I have one. Build one.
That's another thing as well. If there's a car pack or a track that you specifically want to try out, or a combo that you want to try, then I'm always down to mix it up and change it up. So if you just let me know, I'm always down to add the cars in. I think we've just updated for this week. We've put in the DTP pack at Isibu Minami. I probably pronounced that horrible. The one with the jump drift in Japan. Anyone that knows drifting knows the jump drift in Japan. So yeah, we're over there this week.
Well, I, for one, am thankful to have met Joe. I feel like he kind of took me under his wing. He's helped me to experience the world of dirt rally with sequential shifting, with H pattern. I mean, it was really him that encouraged me to do this. It was Joe, and for better or worse, we're still working on that. But again, it's his nature. It's just his character, and we love you for it, Joe.
I just have a weird way of driving things, and I think others should at least try it out to see.
For sure. Well, we're right on an hour and 20, so I think maybe we'll wrap up there. I think there's a lot of content that we could still cover for another time. There's there's so many stories and topics. Like, damn, did we dive deep into wheelbases and force feedback and the like? And I reckon we just sort of scratched the surface. And also with weight transfer and driving technique, we were just starting to talk about it, but we got into it. We really got into it because this is stuff we love to talk about. So let's
great free flowing conversation today. Fantastic.
Let's hang on to that for another time. But for now, to viewers and listeners, thank you for tuning in for this episode. Remember, if you're listening to it on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google, that there is a video version on YouTube, and for you YouTubers, if you wanted to listen to it, there are the audio only versions as well as the Barrel Rollers website, always available there. So guys, thank you all. Joe, Buzz, Wolvie, thank you for taking the time. And peace out. Cheers.
No worries. Peace. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Dirty Rottens.